Let's talk about the basics of scout camping. Now, this is true for Cub Scout packs, yeah, and troops and crews, okay? Ships do their own thing, okay? They might go camping, they might go hiking, I don't know, it's up to them. Now, the definition of camping is very broad as far as what defines as camping. It could be anything from a sleepover, like a lockdown or something of that nature, all the way to a 10-day trek through the mountains of New Mexico. Okay, it could be a range, everything from canoe trips to hiking to camping overnight. That's the wonderful thing about camping. It is wide. Now, the number one thing that all adults are responsible for, and that is safety. Safety is the absolute most important job that us adult leaders do. And one of the safety things we need to make sure that goes on is we need to keep our scouts and adults and everyone safe. In that, electronics are an issue. I've been on campouts where they have been a problem. So when you go camping, you leave your electronics as much as you can in the car, okay? I often refer to it as the camping mode. I have airplane mode. Well, there should be a camping mode. And there is. On every phone that I've ever found has a camping mode. It's called the off button, okay? Turn it completely off. Most likely you're going to be in a place where there's no signal, okay? You don't need it, okay? It's not necessary. When you need a phone, you'll be able to turn it back on and get to a place to talk. And that's rare, extremely rare, okay? So, but as far as safety, only the adults should really have a cell phone. A 12-year-old with a cell phone could be a problem, okay? So make sure that they leave them in the car, okay? Or leave them home, that's even better. So safety is a huge concern. Now, in that, we also have youth protection. Everybody, all the adults that go on any camping of any kind, sleepovers to Philmont, okay? We need them all to take youth protection training. All of them. All of them should be certified and up to date. This is true for parents that are going. It's true for grandfathers and grandmothers. I mean, everybody, all the adults, everyone should have a youth protection training. That's critical. We need to keep our youth safe. Now, no matter what you do in scouting, we often call it the buddy system. In YPT, or youth protection training, it's 2 deep leadership, 2 adults. It is absolutely critical when you go on an adventure, if you're going to go camping or something, no matter what it is, Cub Scouts or a troop or a crew, you have to have a minimum of 4 youth protection trained adults. Super important. There's a reason. 2 deep leadership. Yes, if these 2 leaders have to leave camp and they're the only ones that are youth protection, the whole camping is over. Okay? That's why you need 4, so that 2 can stay behind. Okay? So that's your absolute minimum. Honestly, every single adult should be youth protection trained. It doesn't cost anything. Okay? It's free. It's done online. Okay? But everyone should have that for safety. It's critical. Absolutely critical. You got to have that. That's the very first part. Basic adult leader outdoor orientation, known as BALOO. BALOO is one of these things that all Cub Scout leaders need to take. You need at least 2. 2 deep leadership. You need at least 2 in camp at any given time. So if you're doing Cub Scouts, you need to do your Baloo training. Now there are a lot of Cub Scout packs that go camping once a year, twice a year. I've seen up to 4 times a year. So that's something that your unit has to decide on. Some don't camp at all. So I recommend at least once, especially for your Webelos and your Arrow of Lights. They need the experience of camping. And with that, you have to have Baloo trained leaders there. Now, many districts and even councils will have Cub Scout camping available, whether it be at their camping facility, or they might be doing like a camporee. So this is something that's available for Cub Scouts and Cub Scout packs. But again, your unit should have at least 2 Baloo trained leaders at any given time when you go camping. Now this is in addition to the youth protection trained adults. You need at least 4 or more, or all. I would say all. That's the critical thing. You need these leaders to be there. Now as far as family camping, that's when a family decides to go camping. It's not Scout related. If it's Scout related, you have to have these guidelines. If it's not Scout related, you're doing this on your own. Say for instance you're camping overnight at Yellowstone. Okay, beautiful place. You could do that. That's fine. You would do better if you have all that training and certifications. Think about that. But it's not required. That's not something that the Scouts monitor, because you're on your own. You're not doing it as a Scout unit. That's critical. If you're doing anything as a scouting unit, whether it be Cub Scouts, a troop, a crew, whatever, you have to have these certifications. They need to be there. They need to have these things for the safety of the youth. Introduction to Outdoor Leadership Skills, IOLS. IOLS is very important for all Scouts BSA troops, girls and boys. So you need leaders that do that. Just like the Baloo training for the Cub Scouts, you also have this for the troops. It's important to have as many leaders go through this training. It's also important if you're thinking of leaders that are going to be going into wood badge. They need to do all their basic training. They need to do all of their outdoor skills. They need to do all these things. That's kind of important for wood badge. Now, with that in mind, there's an IOLS video up there that actually will explain a lot of the mechanics of how that training works. Now, summer camp's a little bit different. Now, summer camp and high adventure, which we'll talk about in a minute, but as far as summer camp, you'll have a mixture of beginner campers and advanced campers. So most advanced campers, they can handle what they're doing. It's the beginning campers that you may have issues with. So all of your adult leadership that goes to summer camp needs to be youth protection trained and have the IOLS training in their on their paperwork. Some camps require it. When you do check-in, your adult leaders will be reviewed for that. If they don't have IOLS, a lot of camps teach it during that week. That's a big plus. So definitely take advantage of that at summer camp. Not all summer camps do that. So definitely check into it before you go, and to make sure that you are staying within the requirements that they have. So very important. Now, regardless, you're going to have some youth, especially the new ones, that have never been at camp. Okay, they've never been to summer camp. They've never done that kind of thing. You want to make sure that you have somebody. They often refer to them as like a Nurse Betty or Sawbones or something funny. But there should be some medical officer that's there to help homesick. Homesick is a huge problem. And one of the things about camping, it helps the youth get over and learn to deal with homesickness. That's a critical skill. And there's a video right up there on homesick and what should be done. That's a critical thing. Now there's one that I call it advanced camping for a troop, and that's patrol camping. So many times when a troop goes camping, they will put their patrols in different areas. That's one of the nice things about it. They have that patrol camping as a group. But the individual patrol can go camping also. So this is something that still needs to have the guidelines. You still need to have 2 of the IOLS trained leaders. You need a minimum of 4 youth protection adults. They can be also the IOLS, so you know that's important. So you need a mixture of these things. The more you have, the better. The more flexible you can be. If there's a problem and you can't stay within the minimum, the camping trip is over at that point. So if there's some issue where leaders have to leave, whether it be work related or whatever, family related, that could just end the camping adventure right there. So you have to stay within the guidelines. That is super critical for safety. Now, one major thing about camping, whether it be advanced camping or any kind of camping, is that you have to stay within the guidelines for youth protection. And that includes any of the gender troops, like a girl troop or a boy troop, okay? You have to stay within the guidelines. Super critical. Definitely check on those things. If you're not familiar with them, please look into it. That is important. Now, especially with a venture crew. Venture crew also has an IOLS module that they can do. That is something that a venture crew can do. And one of the wildest things about it is that venture crews are, for any other purposes, co-ed. Okay, there's boys and girls. They're older, and you still have to keep with the YPT gender rules. So that's the important part of when you're dealing with a venture crew. That's critical, and that leads right into high adventure. Now, high adventure, a lot of times it could be a crew that goes out to do high adventure at Philmont or Northern Tier or Summit or Sea Base. You know, there's a lot of different high adventure out there, and there are requirements. Some require a wilderness first aid certification. Some will require other things. So you need to find out who that is, and what you need to do to be ready to do high adventure. High adventure can be challenging, rewarding, wonderful, life-changing in a good way. So, you know, that's our goal, is to make sure that we have good, safe adventures for scouts to enjoy. That's one of the wonderful things about scouting is that we give you the tools to do adventure and have a safe environment for youth to really thrive and really grow and become incredible leaders. Now, I'll tell you what, we are changing the world with better leaders for tomorrow. That's the wonderful thing about scouting, is that we get to work with young people that are anxious, that want to put their skills into action to really do great things for the future. I can think of nothing better than to work with young people that want to achieve, that want to do great things. Some achievements might be climbing a mountain. Some of those achievements might be just learning how to ride a bike. It could be all kinds of different things. And what's wonderful about that is that as a scout leader, you are there to help and mentor and coach and help them gain the skills that are needed to do great things. Now, one of the things that in scouting is super critical is the mission of scouting. The mission of the Boy Scouts of America is to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetime by installing in them the values of the Scout Oath and Law. These are critical. Once those are in place, all the other little things that go on in scouting kind of mirror up to that. And it's wonderful. And this is the only way to help youth be prepared. We have no clue what the future is, but we want scouts to be able to handle what comes their way. I often say that we are changing the world one scout at a time. There are many opportunities for adult leaders to witness all of this training come to action. It's a lot like when the SPL, the Senior Patrol Leader, starts taking control of their own troop. When the unit pulls together for a common goal. When they start using the EDGE method that we teach. When they start using it without thinking about it, they just do it. And with that, they also start using the Scout Oath, the promise. They start using that, helping others. That's in the oath. It's, there's 3 big promises in that oath. And that, when they start putting that together, it's magical to see. When they start doing those things, that's awesome. When they start incorporating the Scout Law into what they do, what they say, and how they act, so critical. Now, scouting makes better people. We know that. As scout leaders, we know that our youth, being exposed to all the principles and morals within scouting, makes a better person, a better citizen of this wonderful country we have. In addition to that, a lot of adult leaders were not in scouting as a youth. Unfortunately, they never had that youth experience. So we get to see all that. Plus, as adults, we start to think about the Scout Oath and the Scout Law and start to incorporate that into our own skill set. Now, these are timeless scouting values. It's very important. It not only makes a better adult, it makes a better citizen. So that's the wonderful thing. Scouting is who you are. A trained leader, someone you can rely on, somebody that you know is a good citizen, helping youth become even better. And the community benefits from that. And a lot of the scout training, the scout leaders get the benefit of learning leadership skills for themselves. They become better employees and better employers. So this is one of those benefits that you get from being involved in scouting. Now, I often say, be the example, not the exemption. Now, I want to tell a story. I was not able to verify that it's true, but we tell this story at Wood Badge. I was on Wood Badge staff. It was wonderful. I'd taken Wood Badge and I was on the staff, and it was just wonderful. But there's a story that we tell for a very specific reason. Now, the legend of the chapel that was constructed in the 1300s. The roof was supported by a huge beam fashioned from an old growth oak. 700 years later, this beam had deteriorated, and the roof was in danger of collapsing. The building required renovations, and the ceiling beam needed to be replaced. Where could they find giant oak trees like those that had been used by the original builders? The answer lied right outside the chapel door. The original builders of the chapel had anticipated that at some point the structure would need new oak beams. So they planted acorns all around the chapel grounds. Several hundred years later, these acorns had matured into the trees that could be used for repairs. What is your vision of the future? What kind of acorns are you planting? The rumors of people throughout the world that say that they were kicked out of scouting. Now, being excluded from scouting is pretty serious. There's definitely an issue. Some scouts have problems with upholding the scout oath and scout law. All scouts and scouters need to know the rules and how to go by them. Now, most of scouting is run completely by the scout oath and the scout law. Every single word. Every scout unit needs to be respectful to those principles. It's also highly recommended that every unit have a code of conduct. Not everything is covered under the scout oath and scout law. So this is something that scout leaders need to have set up long before there's an issue. Can a scout or scouter be kicked out of scouting? Yes. The charter organization representative is in charge of enforcing membership rules with their unit. The charter organization is responsible to approve or disapprove anyone seeking membership within their unit. They can temporarily or permanently not allow an individual to participate in their unit with or without cause. It is completely their unit, their rules. Now, even though the scout is no longer part of a unit, it's not that they're no longer a scout. They can move to another unit. Now, in many cases, they may be required to go to the new charter organization and petition to join the unit. Now, this is just a meeting, usually of the parents. If it's a scout adult, it would be the adult themselves. So they would be working with the new unit to get current membership transferred. Now, this may require a document being produced saying that the reasons why they were let go of the other unit and what they are going to do differently. It's still up to the charter organization whether or not that individual is allowed to participate in scouting in their unit. Chartered organization reps take this extremely seriously. They do not do this lightly, and they really try to work out any issues that are ongoing. And it's important to understand that this is their unit, their rules, and the things that they're enforcing within the guidelines of scouting. Now, there's a lot of rumors, okay? Famous people saying, oh yeah, I was kicked out of scouting. And most of the time, they left. They were either asked to leave, they weren't kicked out. That is extremely rare. It has happened, but it is extremely rare. Most people that hear about it, it's just something they thought up. It's not real, okay? It is very rare, but it does occur. And it's necessary sometimes. So, these are things that as scout leaders we have to think about. We just can't ignore our principles. We have to enforce them. We have to think about the Scout Oath and Scout Law. We have to think about those things. We need to incorporate that into our unit, whether it be a pack, a crew, a troop, anything. Okay? It is so important. That is the core values of scouting. And if you live by those, you don't have to worry about all this kicked out of scouting. That doesn't occur willy-nilly, okay? A lot of chartered organizations take that extremely seriously. It's so important that we keep working with our scouts, keep working with our chartered organization. These are critical things. And you do so much good, hard work for our American youth. We're doing the good thing, okay? So let's keep doing the good thing. The scouting values that we instill on American youth is so important, especially today, more than ever. So keep up that good work that you do, and I will see you on the trail.